breaking news. Former Governor Larry Hogan is running for U.S. Senate. How this could shake up the race and the response from his competition. Plus, state lawmakers meet for the second day to address juvenile crime. We're live in Annapolis, breaking down the bills discussed in today's hearing. Shattered glass litters this Baltimore street.
It sounds like someone just went on a one-street rampage.
Why residents say police aren't doing enough to protect their cars.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Well, we come on the air with breaking news. Former Governor Larry Hogan is making a run for the U.S. Senate. Thank you for joining us. I'm Guy Jackson.
And I'm Rebecca Pryor. The Maryland Republican is trying to flip the seat and become the state's first Republican senator since 1987. But he'll have to take down either Congressman David Trone or Prince George's County Executive Angela Also Brooks in the general election.
Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live right now with the very latest in the race. Keith?
Well, Guy and Rebecca, Larry Hogan making that announcement just hours ago, releasing an engaging campaign video on YouTube. His run for the Senate, somewhat of a bombshell for some political observers. Now, the decision marks a surprise turnaround for Hogan, a moderate who considered a presidential bid. In fact, he sat down with Fox 45 News back in March when he said, after some soul searching, he decided that he would not seek the GOP nomination. As he describes in his campaign video, though, that the two-term Republican governor reminds Marylanders how his administration overcame unprecedented challenges, cut taxes 8 years in a row, balanced the budget, and created a record surplus. Hogan says now he's tired of the toxic politics that's happening across the country, which in part he says is fueling his run for the U.S. Senate.
Maryland is known as the state of middle temperament. We believe in common decency and common sense. Like the exhausted majority of Marylanders, I'm completely fed up with politics as usual. The politicians in Washington seem to be more interested in arguing than in actually getting anything done for the people they represent. Enough is enough.
Well, during Hogan's tenure as governor, he became a national figure as one of the rare Republicans willing to criticize former President Donald Trump. Now, 7 Republicans have filed to enter the GOP primary, but none is as well known as the former governor. Well, live tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. As governor, Larry Hogan pushed 2 crime bills several years in a row. One of them, the Judicial Transparency Act, would publish sentencing data with judges' names included. A watered-down version of the bill passed in 2022, although critics say the changes didn't provide the transparency of the original bill. And the Violent Firearms Offender Act, that bill would have required mandatory minimums for felony crimes committed with guns and imposed stricter penalties on repeat violent offenders. It passed the Senate twice, but stalled in the House. When he left office, Hogan called it the biggest frustration as governor.
We had legislation that we thought was critically important, and every single year, all of the city leaders and all of the city legislators killed those bills. That's my biggest frustration of being governor, that we couldn't get that fixed. But it wasn't for a lack of trying. It was for a lack of cooperation.
You can read more on those crime bills and Governor Hogan's time in office on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And the announcement of Hogan's Senate run comes as lawmakers in Annapolis gather for a second day to review the Democrats' juvenile crime plan.
Well, for months, we've heard from prosecutors across the state of Maryland who say the current juvenile justice laws keep their hands tied and something needs to change. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live from Annapolis with that discussion. Jeff?
Well, a real tug-of-war is playing out here in Annapolis today over the Democrats' reform bill that did appear to originally have bipartisan support. Now, the bill, as you know, rolls back many of those reforms which were passed some 2 years ago. The bill will allow juveniles under 13 to be charged with certain offenses like firearm offenses, third-degree sex abuse, animal abuse, and car theft. It lengthens probation for juveniles, and it also reduces the amount of time DJS has to decide whether to send cases to the courts. Well, right now, a number of states' attorneys are speaking in support of the bill.
Clearly, there are some issues that our young people are facing. We want to ensure that there is a system that has transparency, accountability, and real services that the kids are getting and that they are required to get. And so this bill, I think, establishes a framework for not only holding young people accountable, but also for holding those of us who are responsible to provide the services for these young people accountable as well.
One of the articles that I did pull is the 12-year-old who walks into an Anne Arundel County school with a loaded gun. And all of a sudden, we look at the law and we're like, oh, we can't do anything. What, you mean you walk into a school with a gun and you can't do anything? And remember, we're not talking about charging him as an adult. We're not even talking about necessarily putting him in detention. We're talking about getting that person the help that they need, that their family needs, so that 4 years from now, when they're 16, 17, or 18, I'm not sitting in a room with a family because they lost a loved one who died as a result of that person not getting the help they needed.
Well, a similar hearing was held over in the House committee yesterday. A vote is not expected today in the Senate. We are live in Annapolis. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Thanks, Jeff. And as he just said yesterday, House lawmakers meeting to review that exact same juvenile crime bill. Some arguing that the bill would issue too harsh of consequences for our children. Others arguing it doesn't go far enough. But those behind the bill are calling it a balanced and sensible solution.
This bill is about placing the failings of adults on very young children and children accused of committing minor offenses.
We made a clear effort to eliminate the youngest children from being exposed to the juvenile justice system. And now you have gone ahead and brought them back into the system.
Theft of an all-terrain vehicle. Those cases seem to be particularly toxic in my district. Under this bill, and I think these crimes are very relevant, I think it's a great idea, but it wouldn't capture cases where youth is kind of escalating.
Now, recent reform laws block children under the age of 13 from being charged with certain crimes. Under the new law, no matter their age, children would once again face consequences for auto thefts, sexual assaults, firearm offenses, and animal abuse.
Now, critics argue the data behind the new measures don't exist. But according to state's attorneys from Baltimore City, Prince George's County, and also Montgomery County, crime numbers in the last year show juvenile crime is spiraling out of control.
Our gun crimes year over year are up 220%. My auto thefts are over 200% up year over year. My carjackings are up 85%. Number of young people shot has increased. Last year we had 40.
Last year, we were referred over 1,000 juvenile cases, primarily cases that are felonies that involve very serious offenses.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think lawmakers should hold juveniles accountable for violent crime? The poll just opened. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
On the heels of more than 11,000 stolen cars in 2023, unfortunately this year, car thefts continue taking off across the city. Today, I spoke with one woman who says she's already suffered back-to-back break-ins along Patterson Park this year. And after visiting the area this afternoon, we quickly learned she's not alone.
2468.
Clearly counting.
I mean, that's far up.
Is a lost cause.
I mean, you're going past 100 feet.
If you are trying to capture the city's dramatic upsurge in car thefts and break-ins,
This is like every car.
just look down.
It sounds like someone just went on a one-street rampage.
Littering the ground along Eastern Avenue, beside a well-lit and heavily trafficked Patterson Park, back-to-back piles of shattered glass lining the entire street.
It's pathetic.
Two of those piles likely from Carrie Hall's car,
Last Friday, I got it fixed.
who in the past 2 weeks
And when I went to my car this Monday, the same window was shattered.
fell victim to back-to-back break-ins.
So it's just frustrating and got me to thinking, like, is this a safe place for me to be?
Taking to social media to share her story, Hall's Facebook post met with dozens of comments from area residents suffering similar situations and expressing the same concerns. One person writing, "We've had our car broken into twice in a parking pad, so no place other than a garage potentially is really safe." Another writing, loved the area but hated feeling scared the whole time. I left but missed the community. The latest data from BPD showing property crimes still driving in the wrong direction. In the first month of 2024, police recording 757 car thefts and 372 break-ins, putting thefts up 106% and break-ins up 69% compared to this time last year.
I've heard from people that cops are barely pursuing it.
With criminals showing no signs of slowing down.
When incidents do occur, and it's basically, hey, leave it to insurance.
Teddy Lindy is among those calling on police to step up proactive patrols.
Very rarely do you see cop cars police along this street at night.
I've been living here for almost a year now, and I do not see cops anywhere outside of Fells Point on a night out.
In a city with more piles of broken glass than cops on the street, residents left to question what will it take to break the cycle of soaring thefts before their car is the next counted in the crisis.
I would hate for my car to get broken into, but if it happened, I wouldn't be surprised.
And, what are we paying all these tax dollars for?
If you have a stolen car story or you know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Just scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com.
Well, tonight we're questioning Mayor Brandon Scott on his decision.
Welcome back. The White House is defending President Biden's mental fitness after a special counsel report reinforced concerns many voters have about his memory. The investigation behind the report examined the president's handling of classified documents and resulted in no criminal charges. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports on the political fallout.
Let me say a few things before.
A visibly angry President Biden defending his conduct and mental fitness Thursday night.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing.
Special counsel Robert Hur, a Trump-appointed former U.S. attorney, declined to seek criminal charges, but delivered a scathing indictment of the president's mental acuity that may take a heavy political toll during an election year. Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited, the report said, and he did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business.
Later, when asked about the crisis in Gaza, he called the president of Egypt the president of Mexico.
The president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate.
Republicans quick to go after the president, some calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked and remove him from office, ramping up attacks on the president's age that started long before Hur's report.
He can't put two sentences together. He can't find the stairs off a stage.
Trump has made gaffes confusing Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi, confusing Hungary and Turkey. Why is the mental acuity narrative so much more on Biden?
I think part of it is that Trump is just known for this sort of word salad. And so it's almost just it's maybe less notable that he does that.
Political analyst Kyle Kondik says given concerns about his age, the president should do more public appearances through the November election. 76% of voters said they have concerns about Biden not having the mental and physical health for a second term, according to a recent NBC News poll.
The only way you reassure people as to whether you're, with it and capable of doing the job is to actually be out there.
For Democrats worried about holding on to the White House in November, the report and the president's response adds to their anxiety. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think President Biden is mentally fit for office? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com, click on the Pulse tab.
It has been another beautiful day and really a great start to the weekend. Temperatures above average, 60 currently over Baltimore. Plenty of sunshine over the state. Winds are light breeze, so not too bad right now. Notice temperatures around the state mainly in the 50s and 60s, but it's Cumberland, the high spot on the map at 67, feeling more like spring than winter, but we do have a cool down that's going to come later this weekend. First, overnight, our temperatures will drop to the 40s, fairly mild for this time of year, and actually, those numbers closer to our average high temperatures. We're dry around Maryland, but you can see some areas with rain, and that's all part of our next weather maker. The showers will continue to lift north, and we could start with a couple of stray showers late tonight, but most of the rain is going to come later this weekend. We're talking 63 for the high tomorrow with scattered showers on the way. There's a better chance of rain on Sunday. Temperatures, though, much cooler in the 50s. After that, we're staying in the 50s on Monday with more rain on the way. So over the next 3 days, you'll want the rain gear just in case you are out and about and you are in areas with rain. Notice on the future scan, more clouds start to move in tonight. Then overnight, the chance for a couple of stray showers. You may notice a couple of damp spots as you wake up in the morning, but a lot of the rain, the scattered showers start in the early afternoon. These are going to be short-lived, clearing by about 3 p.m. After that, we're left with mostly cloudy skies, a couple of very isolated showers possible into the night. But it's Sunday when we have a better chance for rain across the state with off and on showers continuing. It's followed by another chance of rain on Monday. Rain continues overnight and into early Tuesday with temperatures above freezing. It's mainly looking like rain across the state. It'll be followed by a mostly dry pattern, though, as we finish out the upcoming work week. 43 for the low temperature tonight. Then tomorrow we're talking highs reaching the low 60s, well above average. We'll only be in the 50s on Sunday and Monday. Then we're talking the mid 40s on Tuesday. A dry pattern persists after that with temperatures in the 50s and the 40s. Back to you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Coming up after the break, this Super Bowl is this Sunday, and the teams, unfortunately not the Ravens, but the teams are getting ready. We take you to Las Vegas with the preparations underway in a live report. And the Be More Healthy Expo is just one day away. We tell you about what's in store and what you need to know to get in on the fun. Welcome back. As we near the weekend, we are just hours away from Super Bowl 58. And for many, when you think about football, there's a tailgate, the game, the party, and there's always food. Brian Schnee with our Sinclair sister station is joining us live in Las Vegas. Brian?
Hey, Rebecca, welcome back to Las Vegas here. It's been great to join you the last couple of days here. We've talked about a lot of things. There's so much to see. There's so much to do. Take a look at New York across the way here. But it's also home to one of the best restaurant scenes in the entire country. Hundreds of thousands from all over are in Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
It's really a nice place to visit.
And everyone's got to eat.
I think Las Vegas has become one of the biggest food cities in America.
Television chef Andrew Zimmern is in Sin City cooking up dishes for the taste of the NFL. What does this event mean to you?
Well, I've done this now for 23 years. The event was founded 33 years ago when we had our first Super Bowl in Minnesota.
The event focuses on ending student hunger, which is something Zimmern went through.
I took meals in the Salvation Army. I took meals in soup kitchens.
Zimmern says once upon a time, Thanksgiving was the biggest food consumption day of the year.
That was eclipsed, and it's now doubled by Super Bowl Sunday. It is insane what has happened over the last decade and a half.
So whether you're at home for the big game or in Vegas,
You can have a lot of fun here, visit great restaurants.
football and food are on the same team. What is it like to try to pick a restaurant around here? That's the foodie question in a city where everything seems to be bursting at the seams. According to the Las Vegas Convention Visitors Authority, more than 40 million visitors in 2023, with 154,000 hotel rooms. So where's everyone going to eat?
YOLO's in Planet Hollywood comes to top of mind. I don't know why. They have wonderful tableside guac.
It's pretty interesting to try all food like from different restaurants, especially, for example, from Sinatra.
The wines was excellent. Best fajitas I've ever had.
Some of the best Korean, Japanese, Thai, regional Chinese, Filipino restaurants that there are. And I think that's a really amazing thing for people to explore here, especially because it takes you off the strip.
A city with something for everyone.
There's so many options.
How does it stack up compared to other cities you've been to?
It's probably the best because you have thousands and thousands of choices.
Vegas is for the foodies. According to TripAdvisor, there are roughly 4,300 restaurants here in the city.
Any type of food that you could possibly want, it's here.
So whether you're planning to dine off the strip or on it, you have endless options. Reporting live in Vegas this afternoon, I'm Brian Schnee.
Thanks, Brian. A teen in California who is a survivor of cancer has received a once-in-a-lifetime surprise. Meet 16-year-old Mason Ferrilli. He's a survivor of spinal and brain cancer. He and his family visited his friend at his car dealership where he was surprised with something he never imagined would be possible.
You are going to the Super Bowl, Mason. You and your dad are going to the Super Bowl. You're going to sit in the lower level, the lower bowl, and you're not just going to the game, you're going to the game. You're a part of it. So I'm going to present you with 2 tickets.
That's awesome.
You are the strongest person that I know. And I love you, and I'm so excited.
Such a sweet surprise there. We want to see how you are watching the Super Bowl as well this year. Scan the QR code right there on your screen. It will take you to our website where you can upload your pictures and videos. It's all powered by Stackla. Coming up after the break, the Baltimore County Council continues to discuss their master plan, the impacts it could have on the community.
Neighbors call 911 after witnessing a woman running through the streets yelling for help. I'm Alexa Ashwell. Tonight on Maryland's Most Wanted, how a Christmas morning almost turned deadly and the search for this man.
Welcome back. As the Baltimore County Council continues their discussion on the master plan, we are taking a closer look at how it could impact your community.
Fox 45's Jessica Babb is live right now showing us how areas designated for development are causing concern. Jessica.
In the master plan, there are certain areas called nodes. There are areas near aging neighborhoods or big transit hubs or even large roads. They're essentially areas where more development could happen. But I've heard from council members and community members who have concerns about where these nodes are located. On the Baltimore County master plan map, you can see these pink spots scattered around.
Some of them look like perfect circles. Some of them look like Pac-Man.
What you're seeing are nodes.
These specific areas in desperate need of revitalization.
And they're considered strategic locations for new development.
Yeah, I support the plan, but I do have some concerns.
According to the master plan, they include residential and commercial properties that support walkable redevelopment that can accommodate more people and a mix of uses that serve the community.
So the nodes were determined by metrics that the planning department implemented.
I've asked Baltimore County what metrics they used.
Some of the concerns that I have are sort of like a broad brush approach with some of the nodes. And what happens is you're inevitably going to have some unintended consequences.
For instance, in Randallstown, a large chunk of Liberty Road is in a node.
So you inevitably have things that are in a node that probably should be there or not there.
According to the map online, some of these nodes even include parts of historic districts like Fieldstone and Lutherville.
What would be helpful is to get a good understanding as to why they identified these areas.
With some concern that could lead to some developers buying up properties and homes. Another question I posed to the county, along with why historic areas were included in the nodes and if they could be redeveloped.
The nodes use metrics, and council members right now are the closest touch a resident has to their county government. So we're trying to weigh between the metrics.
With amendments to the master plan being proposed, council members like Todd Crandall even posting to social media, saying they're planning to eliminate some of the nodes, especially with Bill 324 on the table, which would rezone certain abandoned areas. Crandall even pointing the finger at the county planning department, saying Director Steve Lafferty refused to help council in drafting amendments to the master plan. I asked the county for their response and why.
You know it when you see it. And when you see it is when the community looks at an individual project and decides thumbs up or thumbs down whether or not this is good for their community.
In response to my questions, a county spokesperson says they used 27 different data points, including demographics, employment opportunities, and transportation access. They say just because something falls into a node doesn't mean it will be redeveloped. They say zoning regulations still come into play. And they say they stand by the master plan and will examine any amendments that are provided. In Baltimore County, Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
Thurman Vignarajah launches his mayoral campaign. The former Deputy Attorney General of Maryland filed the paperwork to make his campaign official. Vignarajah announced his plans to run for mayor last month, saying it's clear the other candidates currently in the race aren't the leaders the city needs right now, according to him. He also ran for mayor in 2020, but failed to win the Democratic primary.
Taking a look at the field now, there are 4 major candidates vying for the top spot in City Hall. Mayor Brandon Scott, former Mayor Sheila Dixon, local businessman Bob Wallace, and now Thurman Vignarajah. A poll in December conducted before Vignarajah's announcement found Sheila Dixon is in the lead. Back in December, a poll from Lake Research Partners showed 39% support for Sheila Dixon, 31% support for Mayor Brandon Scott, and 10% for Wallace. Additionally, 15% of those voters were still undecided.
Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby says he is running for re-election.
First question, are you running for re-election?
I am.
Well, Mosby sat down for an interview with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, talking about his testimony during his ex-wife's, former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's, federal trial. During his testimony, federal prosecutors alleged Mosby claimed charitable donations that weren't real. They also claimed in 2014 he was $18,000 behind on mortgage payments and his car was repossessed. He also admitted to lying to the public about the tax lien on the couple's home. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed him on that issue.
It was my colleague who asked about the tax lien that was on your property. You said that it had been taken care of, but that was a lie.
Yeah.
Why did you lie to the public?
Well, at the time, I still didn't realize that there was a formal tax lien. It's a lot of complications with the way it was actually entered, but it was a personal matter, and I should have addressed it as a personal matter. So I regret that, and I think I've said that, and I'll constantly say that. So it's an opportunity for me to grow and learn from that.
Can the voters trust that you won't lie to them again?
I think the voters do trust that and know who I am. They know my integrity. They know my character.
Fox 45 News was with Mr. Mosby when he filed to run for re-election yesterday. That filing deadline for any candidate who wants to run for public office in Maryland is tonight at 9 o'clock. Yesterday, we asked you, would you vote to re-elect Nick Mosby as City Council President? 96% of those who voted said no.
On a national level, the race for the White House is heating up as the main two candidates both deal with classified document controversies. Former President Trump is facing criminal charges, but President Biden is not. But why? Here are the key differences between the two cases. According to a special counsel report, the documents Biden had were largely handwritten notes that he thought were personal property. He also cooperated with the investigation.
Special counsel acknowledged I cooperated completely. I did not throw up any roadblocks. I sought no delays.
Trump, on the other hand, had boxes of hundreds of documents with classified markings like secret or top secret, according to that report. Once the government asked for them back, he is accused of trying to hide the documents and obstruct investigators. However, Trump denies this.
Everything I did was right. We have the Presidential Records Act, which I abided by 100%.
Trump is now arguing the U.S. has a two-tiered system of justice since he faces charges and Biden does not.
The results are in for Thursday's national question of the day. We asked, should states have the ability to ban candidates from the ballot? 21% of you said yes, 79% said no.
A Christmas Day love triangle almost turns deadly, and an accused sexual predator on the run has been captured. Here's Alexa Ashwell with Maryland's Most Wanted.
Investigators say on Christmas, Isaac Abarca Diaz went to the home where his ex-wife and her new boyfriend were. The incident ending with shots fired and Abarca Diaz on the run.
December 25th, 2023, Northwest Baltimore. It's Christmas morning. A family is gathered inside of a home here on Bancroft Road in Northwest Baltimore's Glen community, when suddenly, according to investigators, a familiar face shows up. That familiar face, identified as 39-year-old Isaac Abarca Diaz.
Diaz arrived to the home where his ex-wife and his ex-wife's boyfriend were.
Investigators say Abarca Diaz begins arguing with his ex-wife's new boyfriend. The argument quickly escalating.
The two men began arguing, then it turned physical down the stairwell.
According to investigators, the two men began wrestling in a backdoor stairwell. Abarca Diaz then pulling out a gun.
Diaz then pulls out a firearm, points it at the boyfriend of his ex-wife, and pulls the trigger 2 times.
I-34, I have a call coming off of class of help, 3905 Bancroft. It says they hear a female running on a block yelling for help.
Neighbors call 911 after hearing the gunshots and a woman's cry for help.
And now we're getting a call an assault in progress at 3911 Bancroft. All right, guys, it's turning into a discharge in 3911 Bancroft. Shots fired.
09, I'm en route.
Police respond.
The witnesses are saying they heard gunshots in the basement.
And find the victim in the basement.
Miraculously, the male victim isn't hit.
The bolts missed him.
House was clear.
Abarca Diaz had already fled the scene. Police put out a bolo.
All right, guys, if y'all see a gray car that's involved in Hispanic male with black clothing on, there's a female with stating that the father has a gun.
Abarca Diaz on the run and armed.
Diaz does have a criminal history, and Diaz does have violent tendencies within his criminal history. Anybody who is going to brandish a firearm and pull that trigger towards a subject or a witness or victim needs to be off the streets. We can't have somebody running around with a firearm who's willing to use it.
Take a good look. Abarca Diaz stands at about 5'2" and weighs approximately 130 pounds. Investigators do warn he is known to have violent tendencies. If you have any information regarding his whereabouts, you're asked to contact the U.S. Marshal Service, the tip line number 1-877-WANTED-2. Or you can contact agents directly at 202-819-5058. Update. A Baltimore man accused of forcing himself onto a woman as she slept has been captured. Last summer, Thomas Jones was featured on Maryland's Most Wanted. The fugitive was wanted for 3 sex offenses, including second-degree rape and assault charges for an incident that occurred back in April 2023. Investigators say police located Jones on West Lexington Street in West Baltimore and took him into custody. Jones is due in court next month. If you recognize any of our fugitives, remember, you can always remain anonymous and you could earn a reward. I'm Alexa Ashwell, and this is Maryland's Most Wanted.
Governor Wes Moore has officially proclaimed this Sunday, February 11th, will be Lamar Jackson Day here in Maryland. The governor did this in honor of the Baltimore Ravens quarterback, of course, being named the NFL's most valuable player. The 27-year-old accepted the award at the NFL honor ceremony in Las Vegas. He becomes the 11th player in the league's history to win the award more than once, taking home the title his second year with the Ravens in 2019. Jackson led the Ravens to a 13-4 record and the #1 seed in the AFC this year.
Coming up after the break, evacuations are underway in the Middle East ahead of an expected ground assault. The response from U.S. officials.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, how President Biden is taking a sharper stance on Israel. And if you'll be going anywhere tonight, it looks good. We're talking temperatures in the upper 50s around 5 p.m., then dropping to the upper 40s around 9. However, the nice and quiet weather ends this weekend as rain moves in. I'll break down the timing of the rain and impacts to your weekend in my Weather Authority forecast.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is ordering his military to evacuate civilians from the southern Gaza city of Rafah ahead of an expected ground assault. An estimated 1.5 million Palestinians are crammed into the town after fleeing other parts of Gaza. Israel claims Rafah is the last remaining Hamas stronghold, but the U.S. and the international community warns a ground incursion into the city risks disaster.
We've seen no plans that would convince us that they are about to or imminently going to conduct any kind of major operations in Rafah. There's a lot of displaced people there, and the Israeli military has a special obligation as they conduct operations there or anywhere else to make sure that they're factoring in protection for innocent civilian life.
National Security spokesman John Kirby says a ground assault in Rafah is, quote, not something we would support. President Biden gives some of his harshest criticism yet regarding Israel. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins reports.
President Biden delivering sharp criticism of Israel during Thursday evening's press conference.
The conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip has been over the top.
After Hamas's October 7th massacre, Biden staunchly defended Israel's right to defend itself.
Entire families slain, young people massacred, women raped, assaulted, paraded as trophies. Israel has the right to respond, indeed has a duty to respond.
But amid unrelenting protests from some of his key support groups, the president now appearing to shift his policy as warning signs for his re-election campaign begin to flash. Support for Biden noticeably plummeting among Michigan's large Arab American community. A recent poll has him trailing Donald Trump by 5 points. The key battleground state helped deliver Biden the White House in 2020. Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib among the most vocal critics.
The level of support for Netanyahu's war crimes by the Biden administration and the majority of this body is beyond belief.
In an effort to mend ties, Biden sending top aides to Michigan, where they met with Arab Americans Thursday, including Muslim activist Osama Siblani, a public supporter of the terror groups Hamas and Hezbollah. Siblani is the publisher of Arab American News. He received a personal invite from the White House.
Take me inside that room. What happened?
Well, you know, first of all, they listen to what we have to say. They are not doing anything so far, so we are waiting for them to do something.
The private sit-down unleashing immediate backlash from the Jewish community.
This week, Biden also placing new conditions on U.S. military aid to Israel, something progressives have been pushing for. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Take a look at this. A volcano in Iceland continues to spew lava. The volcano's third time erupting since December, and it's causing some evacuations of nearby areas. One of the country's most well-known tourist attractions, the Blue Lagoon Spa, was included in those evacuations. Thousands are cut off from heat and hot water after lava spewed a pipeline.
We've been enjoying a nice and dry start to the weekend. We have plenty of sunshine over the state and temperatures making it feel a lot like spring. 60 currently. Hopefully you were able to get outside and enjoy the nice weather before rain and cooler temperatures move in this weekend. We're seeing numbers mainly in the 50s and the 60s across the state. It's been a nice afternoon. It stays nice this evening. However, we have the next weather maker on the way. Notice a few showers on the HD radar. That rain will continue to track toward the northeast overnight. That could result in a couple of isolated showers tonight. But tomorrow afternoon, another chance for rain, and it could have an impact on your Saturday. We're talking highs reaching the low 60s, slightly warmer than today, but we're in for a big cool down, an 11-degree drop in temperatures on Sunday, 52 for the high with more rain on the way, and the rainy pattern continues on Monday with temperatures staying in the low 50s. So notice on the future scan, overnight, we have that chance for a few stray showers, not a washout. A lot of this does clear by daybreak, but as we head into the afternoon, more rain moves in as we get ready for that next weather maker. Expect scattered showers through the early afternoon. Later on, they do start to taper, so around 3 p.m., we're back to mostly cloudy skies. A few stray showers overnight are possible. Then into Sunday, we get ready for another chance of rain around the state. Now we have more weather makers to follow, leading to a rainy pattern for early next week. Notice as we head into later Monday into the afternoon and evening, we'll have showers. That rain continues overnight and it could be heavy at times. Initially, we were looking at the possibility for a little bit of snow behind that rain. However, it's looking like most of the snow does stay to our north. There's still the possibility of a few wet flakes, but we're not looking at much accumulation just because it's going to be too warm. Ground temperatures will be much higher following the rain. 43 for the low tonight with the chance for a few showers after midnight, then 63 for the high tomorrow. Not a washout, but we have that chance for scattered afternoon showers. This is all followed by a big drop in temperatures on Sunday, 52 for the high. Then we're talking 51 on Monday. We have showers continuing into Tuesday again. We're mainly talking rain. After that, back to a nice and dry pattern starting on Wednesday, 50 for the high. We'll drop to the 40s on Thursday and on Friday, staying mostly dry into the upcoming weekend. Kai?
Jasmine, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock, experts say a few small bets could lead to a full-blown addiction. The growing concern over online betting with the Super Bowl days away. First, the Be More Healthy Expo is tomorrow, and there will be plenty of activities for the family. We have a sneak peek coming up. Well, the Be More Healthy Expo is tomorrow, and there is plenty to take part in for all ages. Today on Fox 45 Morning News, meteorologist Amy Aronson was at the Be More Mini Expo. It's the mini one, the one before tomorrow, with a sneak peek.
We are wrapping up our mini expo, getting us ready for the Be More Healthy Expo tomorrow by talking about teeth. You can see where we are. We're on the Colgate Bright Smiles, Bright Futures truck right now. I'm here with Anika Ford's Grant, and you were telling us what you guys do on this little van when people come visit you.
We have so much fun when we are on this van, and yes, we do get little people that come on this van. So we provide dental education as well as oral health screenings for children 12 and under. We go through brushing, so we show them how to properly brush their teeth.
Stuff, very important.
And we also go through flossing, especially for those teeth that touch each other.
Oh yeah, can't have that. Right?
And we have so much fun. We have a little selfie.
I love that.
So we make it a very fun activity for them when they come on the van, make it very akin as if they're going to a dental office.
That's cool.
Kind of eliminate the fear and bring some fun positivity on it. Exactly. And this program has been around since 1991.
That's awesome.
We've served globally 1.7 billion children and their families. And this van lives in the Maryland area, but it travels around the DC, Virginia area, just making sure that we are able to provide the dental screenings and the oral health education to children and their families.
Okay, awesome. And people can find this van tomorrow at the Be More Healthy Expo?
They can. Super excited. Can't wait to see everybody.
Okay, awesome. Well, we look forward to it. Look for the van. You won't be able to miss it tomorrow. If you want more information right now on everything happening, foxbaltimore.com/newslinks.
Well, join us for the Be More Healthy Expo tomorrow at the Baltimore Convention Center. The free event includes health screenings, cooking and dance demonstrations, and a chance to meet your favorite Fox 45 news personalities. The Be More Healthy Expo runs tomorrow from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon.
The road to the big game is sponsored by Royal Farms.
Most Taylor Swift fans are betting that she will show up at the big game in Las Vegas and even think a proposal is possible. A new survey found 1,000 Swifties fans. 96% believe the pop star will attend the big game to support boyfriend Travis Kelce. Nearly 1 in 4 believe there's a chance Kelce will propose to Taylor after the game. 7% said they would go into debt, and 1% would also go as far as selling an organ, according to the survey by Greenback Expat Tax Services. All right. Coming up at Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, one of Maryland's most prominent Republicans is making a push for the U.S. Senate seat. We're talking with a political expert about Larry Hogan's chances. Is the mayor's GVRS expansion moving into areas that need it most? Fox 45 News is pressing City Hall for answers on why the mayor is pushing it. A big shakeup today in the Maryland Senate race. Former Governor Larry Hogan is now running. We break down his decision as we hear from his competitors.
The new youth crime bill is in the Senate's hands tonight, where lawmakers stand on the policy designed to hold kids accountable.
The mayor's group violence reduction strategy is expanding. Fox 45 News is demanding answers on why he's moving it to parts of the city that may not need it as much.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Larry Hogan is running for U.S. Senate. The former governor of Maryland is hoping to win that seat that will be vacated by longtime Senator Ben Cardin. The announcement comes after months of speculation surrounding Hogan's political future. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Jackson.
And I'm Rebecca Pryor. Hogan's decision to run could have a massive national ramification on what party will control the Senate. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us now live with the latest on that announcement. Keith?
Rebecca, Larry Hogan making that announcement just a few hours ago, releasing an engaging campaign video on YouTube, his run for the Senate, somewhat of a bombshell for some political observers. Now, the decision marks a surprise turnaround for Hogan, a moderate who considered a presidential bid. In fact, he sat down with Fox 45 News back in March when he said after some soul searching, he decided he would not seek the GOP nomination. As he describes in his campaign video, the two-term Republican governor reminds Marylanders how his administration overcame unprecedented challenges, cut taxes 8 years in a row, balanced the budget, and created a record surplus. Hogan says now he's tired of the toxic politics that's happening across the country, which in part, he says, is fueling his run for the U.S. Senate.
Maryland is known as the state of middle temperament. We believe in common decency and common sense. Like the exhausted majority of Marylanders, I'm completely fed up with politics as usual. The politicians in Washington seem to be more interested in arguing than in actually getting anything done for the people they represent. Enough is enough.
Well, during Hogan's tenure as governor, he became a national figure as one of the rare Republicans willing to criticize former President Donald Trump. Now, 7 Republicans have filed to enter the GOP primary, but none is as well known as the former governor. Well, live tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
All right, Keith, thank you. Democrats David Trone and Angela Also Brooks are battling for their party's nomination, with recent polling from Trone's camp saying that he's leading in that race. Both candidates are reacting to Hogan's announcement tonight. Trone is attacking Hogan, calling him a career politician who makes empty promises, and that a vote for him is a vote for abortion bans, voter suppression, and massive tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans.
Meanwhile, Also Brooks is promising she's going to beat Trone in the primary, then take down Hogan in November and protect abortion rights when she becomes a member of the Democratic Party.
As Governor Larry Hogan pushed 2 crime bills several years in a row, one of them, the Judicial Transparency Act, would have published sentencing data with judges' names included. A watered-down version of the bill passed in 2022. Critics say the changes didn't provide the transparency the original bill intended. The other, the Violent Firearms Offender Act, aimed to implement mandatory minimums for felony crimes committed using handguns and impose stricter penalties on repeat violent offenders. That one passed the state Senate twice, but stalled in the House. When he left office, Larry Hogan called that the biggest frustration of his time as governor.
We had legislation that we thought was critically important, and every single year, all of the city leaders and all of the city legislators killed those bills. That's my biggest frustration of being governor, that we couldn't get that fixed. But it wasn't for a lack of trying. It was for a lack of cooperation.
You can find more on those crime bills and Governor Hogan's time in office on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And the announcement of Hogan's Senate run comes as lawmakers in Annapolis gather for a second day to review the Democrats' juvenile crime plan. For months, we have heard from prosecutors all across Maryland saying that the current juvenile justice laws keep their hands tied Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live now with the latest on the debate over the new bill. Jeff.
Well, a real tug-of-war is playing out here in Annapolis today over the Democrats' reform bill, which appears to have bipartisan support. Now, as you know, the bill rolls back many of those reforms which were passed some 2 years ago. The bill will allow juveniles under 13 to be charged with certain offenses like firearm offenses, third-degree sex abuse, animal abuse, and car theft. It also would lengthen probation for juveniles, and it would extend or reduce the amount of time DJS has to refer cases to the courts. Well, right now, several states' attorneys are in the committee room speaking in support of the bill.
Clearly, there are some issues that our young people are facing. We want to ensure that there is a system that has transparency, accountability, and real services that the kids are getting and that they are required to get. And so this bill, I think, establishes a framework for not only holding young people accountable, but also for holding those of us who are responsible to provide the services for these young people accountable as well.
One of the articles that I did pull is the 12-year-old who walks into an Anne Arundel County school with a loaded gun. And all of a sudden, we look at the law and we're like, oh, we can't do anything. What, you mean you walk into a school with a gun and you can't do anything? And remember, we're not talking about charging him as an adult. We're not even talking about necessarily putting him in detention. We're talking about getting that person the help that they need, that their family needs, so that 4 years from now, when they're 16, 17, or 18, I'm not sitting in a room with a family because they lost a loved one who died as a result of that person not getting the help they needed.
Well, a similar hearing was held over in a House committee yesterday. A vote is not expected today in the Senate. We are live. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Jeff. As he just mentioned yesterday, House lawmakers met to review that exact same bill, legislation aimed at combating the soaring juvenile crime crisis across the state. Some arguing that the bill would issue too harsh of consequences for our children. Others arguing it doesn't go far enough. But those behind the bill are calling it a balanced and sensible solution.
This bill is about placing the failings of adults on very young children and children accused of committing minor offenses.
We made a clear effort to eliminate the youngest children from being exposed to the juvenile justice system. And now you have gone ahead and brought them back into the system.
Theft of an all-terrain vehicle. Those cases seem to be particularly toxic in my district. Under this bill, and I think these crimes are very relevant, I think it's a great idea, but it wouldn't capture cases where a youth is kind of escalating.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think lawmakers should hold juveniles accountable for violent crime? 100% of those who voted say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
On the heels of more than 11,000 cars stolen in 2023, unfortunately this year, car thefts continue taking off across the city. Today, I spoke with one woman who says she's already suffered back-to-back break-ins along Patterson Park this year. And after visiting the area this afternoon, we quickly learned she's not alone.
2468.
Clearly counting.
I mean, that's far up.
Is a lost cause.
I mean, you're going past 100 feet.
If you're trying to capture the city's dramatic upsurge in car thefts and break-ins,
this is like every car.
Just look down.
It sounds like someone just went on a one-street rampage.
Littering the ground along Eastern Avenue, beside a well-lit and heavily trafficked Patterson Park, back-to-back piles of shattered glass lining the entire street.
It's pathetic.
Two of those piles likely from Carrie Hall's car.
Last Friday, I got it fixed.
Who in the past 2 weeks,
when I went to my car this Monday, the same window was shattered.
Fell victim to back-to-back break-ins.
It's just frustrating and got me to thinking, like, is this a safe place for me to be?
Taking to social media to share her story, Hall's Facebook post met with dozens of comments from area residents suffering similar situations and expressing the same concerns. One person writing, "We've had our car broken into twice in a parking pad, so no place other than a garage potentially is really safe."
Another writing, loved the area, but hated feeling scared the whole time. I left, but missed the community. The latest data from BPD showing property crimes still driving in the wrong direction. In the first month of 2024, police recording 757 car thefts and 372 break-ins, putting thefts up 106% and break-ins up 69% compared to this time last year.
I've heard from people that cops are barely pursuing it.
With criminals showing no signs of slowing down.
When incidents do occur, and it's basically, hey, leave it to insurance.
Teddy Lindy is among those calling on police to step up proactive patrols.
Very rarely do you see cop cars police along this street at night.
I've been living here for almost a year now, and I do not see cops anywhere outside of Fells Point on a night out.
In a city with more piles of broken glass than cops on the street, residents left to question what will it take to break the cycle of soaring thefts before their car is the next counted in the crisis.
I would hate for my car to get broken into, but if it happened, I wouldn't be surprised.
And, what are we paying all these tax dollars for?
And if you have a stolen car story or you know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Just scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com.
After touting success in the Western District, Mayor Brandon Scott is expanding his group violence reduction strategy, the GVRS crime fighting plan. But the district is moving into an area, or the plan, that might not need it as much. Alexa Ashwell joins us live right now with more on the move some say is political. Alexa?
Well, yes, Kai, as we know, this is an election year, and Mayor Brandon Scott is seeking re-election. Political analyst John Dede says selecting the Eastern District next is low-hanging fruit.
And thank you all for being here.
Just yesterday, Mayor Brandon Scott and his team announcing his group violence reduction strategy has officially expanded into the Central District and will next move into Baltimore's Eastern District.
We're beginning now to lay the groundwork for expansion to the Eastern District, our next GVRS district.
But why the Eastern, a district that was applauded last year for its success in reducing homicides and getting more guns off the streets? Here, City Councilman Mark Conway from a public safety hearing last June.
For the Eastern District, just wow. The Eastern District went from 36 gun arrests last year to 105 this year, which is insane. They're doing incredible work there, and we're seeing the returns, of course, in reductions in homicides, shootings, you name the crime, it's gone down in the Eastern District.
Then BPD attributed the success to enhanced resources in the district.
They're one of the few districts that does have a BSIC. So they have people who are constantly monitoring cameras, looking for characteristics of armed persons and other things that may lead to a handgun arrest. They also have 2 DAT teams. So you're getting double the DAT exposure by those officers who are crime focused and for crime suppression. So you get a lot of that, also coupled with we have an East Side and West Side initiative.
While fielding questions during yesterday's expansion announcement, Scott also acknowledged the Eastern District's success.
They're already doing much of, if not most of, the GVRS work already is happening in the Eastern District, and you saw how well they did in the Eastern District with crime and violence last year.
So why not first expand GVRS, a strategy that pumps more police and resources into a targeted area, into more struggling districts? That's a question we sent to the mayor's office. Political analyst John Dede calls the move smart election year politics.
I think it is a smart political move to do something like this because it's an area that's having fewer problems, which is easier to show success when you're doing that. It's like tutoring an A student instead of tutoring a C student. It's going to be easier to show results with the A student than the C student.
And as we know, Scott started GVRS in the city's Western District, which historically is the city's most dangerous district. We're still waiting on a response to our questions. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Thuroo Vignarajah, the former Deputy Attorney General of Maryland, filed paperwork to run for mayor of Baltimore. Vignarajah says, in his opinion, it's clear the other candidates in the race aren't the leaders the city needs. He also ran for mayor in 2020, but failed to win the Democratic primary.
Taking a look at the field now, there are 4 major candidates vying for the top spot in City Hall. Mayor Brandon Scott, former Mayor Sheila Dixon, local businessman Bob Wallace, and now the Rue Vignarajah. A Lake Research Partners poll in December conducted before Vignarajah's announcement found Sheila Dixon is in the lead. 39% of those surveyed supported Sheila Dixon, 31% Mayor Scott, and 10% Bob Wallace. 15% of those voters were undecided.
Growing concerns over the master plan in Baltimore County, why some fear it could open the doors for developers to buy up massive pieces of land near their homes.
For the second year in a row, President Biden is skipping the traditional pre-Super Bowl sit-down interview. I'm Christine Frizzell with why that decision is raising questions. Coming up.
And our dry pattern comes to an end tomorrow as we get ready for the next weather maker. It's going to lead to rain across the region, having an impact on your Saturday. I'll let you know when to expect more rain coming up in my full forecast.
Welcome back. President Biden has had a number of gaffes in recent weeks, telling donors that he spoke with German leader Helmut Kohl, who died in 2017 when he met Angela Merkel, and saying France's president was Francois Mitterrand, who died in 1996. Some say advisors are reportedly avoiding putting him into unscripted situations, even turning down the annual presidential Super Bowl interview. National correspondent Christine Frizzell reports.
From retaliatory airstrikes on Iran-backed militants in Iraq and Syria to positive economic news and President Biden's win in the South Carolina Democratic primary, it's been a news-making week for the White House. But noticeably missing from much of these announcements and events, the president himself. Now, he's declined to take part in the traditional pre-Super Bowl interview for the second year in a row.
I think it's indicative of the fact that he doesn't trust himself on live mics. And he's been avoiding press conferences. He's been avoiding conversations with principals.
The White House defending the decision this week.
You know, we know that the viewers who tuned in, they tune in to watch the game. The president will find many other ways to communicate with Americans.
While former President Trump skipped the 2018 pre-Super Bowl interview, Biden has participated in fewer interviews overall, 86 compared to Trump's 300 and Barack Obama's 422 at this point in their presidencies.
It amazes me that there are not more Democrats who really reject this kind of public appearances, lack of public appearances by the president, lack of press conferences. I mean, we're in crisis. The Middle East is in crisis.
An NBC News poll released Sunday shows the president's current approval rating is at 37%, and just 34% approve of his handling of foreign policy. President Biden does often engage in gaggles with the press, both at the White House and on the road. But there are concerns that skipping the Super Bowl sit-down is a missed opportunity to speak to millions of voters directly, especially when issues like the southern border and the economy are top of mind for so many.
I would think it's a bad way to campaign, but it's certainly a bad way to run the country.
As of now, President Biden's next high-profile remarks will be his State of the Union address, which is scheduled for March 7th. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think that President Biden is mentally fit for office? So far, 86% of those who responded say no. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
After a beautiful afternoon, temperatures are quickly starting to fall. 55 currently with a few clouds over Baltimore as the sun begins to set. Winds are light. Around the state, we're seeing temperatures in the 50s and the 60s. Cumberland at 63 with plenty of sunshine is still the highest spot around the state. We are nice and dry here, and we're going to stay that way into the early night. But after midnight, there will be the chance for a couple of stray showers as rain continues to push toward the northeast. Now, we could have a few wet spots in the morning, but it's the afternoon when our next weather maker moves in, and it could have an impact on your plans tomorrow. Our temperatures stay above average, reaching 63, but a big cool down follows next week. 52 with rain on Sunday, then the low 50s again on Monday with another chance for rain. We're talking a soggy pattern over the next 3 days and into early next week. Tonight, the rain comes around 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Most of it does taper by daybreak. A couple of lingering showers closer to the state line are possible, but we have the best chance for rain around much of the state as we get closer to noon. The showers continue off and on and start to clear by about 3 p.m. We'll be left with mostly cloudy skies. Then into Sunday morning, we're looking at the chance for a few more showers. The rain continues throughout the day. It's going to be followed by a second weather maker. So as we continue on and as we head into Monday, we are looking at the chance for more rain, possibly leading to some heavy rain into Tuesday morning. There could even be a couple of wet flakes. However, we're not expecting any accumulation. 43 for the low temperature tonight with a few stray showers, then 63 with afternoon showers tomorrow. This will be followed by a big drop in temperatures next week. We're looking at 52 on Sunday, then 51 on Monday with more rain on the way. Rain continues overnight leading into Tuesday morning. 46 for the high temperature. This is followed by 50 on Wednesday. After that, as we finish out the work week, temperatures will be in the 40s with a mostly dry forecast. Rebecca?
Thank you, Jasmine. More than 40 million Americans are expected to bet on the big game. The concerns from some those wagers could lead to gambling addiction. And Governor Larry Hogan is throwing his hat in the Senate race, breaking down his chances against the top Democrats vying for the job. Welcome back. 12 people were killed when a home was hit by an airstrike in Gaza last night. According to officials in Gaza, most of those victims were children. It's the latest example of civilians being caught in the crossfire between Israel and the terrorist group Hamas as the war in Gaza continues. President Biden is urging Israel to pull back its assault on Gaza after weeks of supporting the offensive. He's now saying that the destruction is, quote, over the top. It comes as hostage negotiation experts warn that it is unlikely the current tactics from Israel will result in the release of the remaining Israelis being held in Gaza.
If the Israelis were to encounter the Hamas military leadership and political leadership in the tunnels or bunkers underneath Gaza, they are most likely surrounded by hostages, and a gunfight or an explosion could take place that would kill the soldiers, the Hamas leaders, and the hostages. There is no military solution to get all the hostages home. There can only be a negotiated agreement with Hamas.
Israel's prime minister has rejected multiple deals in recent weeks to end the fighting and return some of the hostages still being held in Gaza. He says if the military does not destroy Hamas now, it will only lead to more terrorist attacks on Israel, like the October 7th assault that started the war. Former Governor Larry Hogan is making a Senate run. We are talking with a political expert about what it means for the race. Baltimore County residents pushing back on redevelopment plans, why they say the, quote, nodes laying out where things will change don't make sense for the community.
Well, former Governor Larry Hogan is making a Senate run in the state. The Maryland Republican is trying to flip the seat and become the state's first Republican senator in Maryland since 1987.
A long time. To do it, though, you'll have to take down either Congressman David Trone or Prince George's County Executive Angela Also Brooks in the general election. Recent polling conducted by Trone shows that the congressman is leading in the Democratic Party. Right now, we are joined by political analyst John Deedy to break down the latest developments in the Maryland Senate race. John, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
You're welcome.
John, since leaving office, Hogan has been connected to rumors of a presidential run as a Republican, then as a third-party candidate. Well, he put those rumors to rest, but now after months of speculation, he says he's running for Senate. Your thoughts, and why did he make that decision now?
I was surprised he made that decision, and I think probably what happened was he was heavily lobbied by the Republican Senate committees who were looking to add a candidate in Maryland to kind of tie down Democrats a little bit. There is a possibility Hogan could win based on a variety of circumstances, but they got themselves definitely an A-plus candidate in Hogan running for this seat.
No, Deedy, when Hogan won the race for governor, he did it as a Republican with some support from Democrats. Do you see that playing out again in this election?
This is going to be a little more difficult for Governor Hogan this time around because a lot of Democrats, this is a national election. And the thing that's going to be used against Governor Hogan is a vote for Hogan is a vote to make Mitch McConnell Senate Majority Leader. And Mitch McConnell is very disliked among passionate Democratic observers. The other problem the governor is going to have is for years he's been very anti-Trump. He refused to endorse Dan Cox for governor. Cox got a third of the vote in the last election. So how does he figure out winning a general when there may be a lot of Dan Cox voters that decide, I think I'll stay home?
Yeah, John, it seems like Governor Hogan, he always talked about being a purple governor in the state of Maryland, and I'm not sure that flies in a national election. David Trone has come out with these scathing statements against the governor, talking about a vote for him. You were talking about some other issues, is putting Donald Trump back in power, supporting abortion bans, that kind of thing. How's that going to play out, Trone's comments against former Governor Hogan?
The one problem Governor Hogan's going to have is in a state race, it's state issues. In a national race, it's national issues. Maryland's going to have a ballot measure basically codifying Roe versus Wade into law. He's going to have to answer those type of questions. And when I say national, it's just not issues on abortion. But when some of the gadflies in Congress make say a variety of things, he's going to have to respond to that. People are going to say, Governor Hogan, what do you think about the resolution being proposed before Congress, basically saying that it wasn't an insurrection on January 6th and absolving President Trump of blame? Things like that he's got to respond to. And that could be very difficult because you have to thread the needle between getting some of those Republican votes and at the same time, dealing with the Trump issue. And I think this could be very difficult. He's going to have to rely on a lot of independents to support him in a general election.
And when it comes down to those two Democratic candidates that he might be going up against, Trone or Also Brooks, who do you think he has a better chance of beating? And ultimately, who do you think he will be going up against?
This is going to get very tricky in this regard. If he faces David Trone, he's going to be at a financial disadvantage. And the other problem is this. May 9th is the primary. May 10th is the critical day, the day after. If Trone and Also Brooks don't have kumbaya, this could help Larry Hogan a great deal. And they're going to need kumbaya against a guy like Hogan. And I think that in a race like this, he might have a little bit easier time with Also Brooks because she's at a financial disadvantage. Whereas Trone can just keep printing money and spending money like crazy, as we've already seen in the primary.
Interesting. All right, John Deedy, political analyst. We always appreciate your comments, John. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Republican Kim Klacik announces her candidacy for Maryland's 2nd congressional seat. Longtime Democratic Congressman Dutch Rupertsberger announcing his plans to retire after his current term, leaving the position up for grabs. Klacik previously ran for the state's 7th congressional seat, losing to Democrat Kizime Mfume back in 2020. Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski is also running in the 2nd district this year. And as the Baltimore County Council continues their discussion on the master plan, we are taking a closer look at how it could impact your community.
That's right. Fox 45's Jessica Babb is live showing us how areas designated for development are causing concern. Jessica.
Well, in the master plan, there are certain areas called nodes, which are areas near aging neighborhood centers, transit hubs, and even large roads. Essentially, these nodes are areas where future development could happen. But I've heard concerns from both council members and community members about where these nodes are located. On the Baltimore County master plan map, you can see these pink spots scattered around.
Some of them look like perfect circles. Some of them look like Pac-Man.
What you're seeing are nodes.
These specific areas in desperate need of revitalization.
And they're considered strategic locations for new development.
Yeah, I support the plan, but I do have some concerns.
According to the master plan, they include residential and commercial properties that support walkable redevelopment that can accommodate more people and a mix of uses that serve the community.
So the nodes were determined by metrics that the planning department implemented.
I've asked Baltimore County what metrics they used.
Some of the concerns that I have are sort of like a broad brush approach with some of the nodes. And what happens is you're inevitably going to have some unintended consequences.
For instance, in Randallstown, a large chunk of Liberty Road is in a node.
So you inevitably have things that are in a node that probably should be there or not there.
According to the map online, some of these nodes even include parts of historic districts like Fieldstone and Lutherville.
What would be helpful is to get a good understanding as to why they identified these areas.
With some concern that could lead to some developers buying up properties and homes. Another question I posed to the county, along with why historic areas were included in the nodes and if they could be redeveloped.
The nodes use metrics, and council members right now are the closest touch a resident has to their county government. So we're trying to weigh between the metrics and what community sentiment is.
With amendments to the master plan being proposed, council members like Todd Crandall even posting to social media, saying they're planning to eliminate some of the nodes, especially with Bill 324 on the table, which would rezone certain abandoned areas. Crandall even pointing the finger at the county planning department, saying Director Steve Lafferty refused to help council in drafting amendments to the master plan. I asked the county for their response and why.
You know it when you see it. And when you see it is when the community looks at an individual project and decides thumbs up or thumbs down whether or not this is good for their community.
In response to my questions, a county spokesperson said they used 27 different data points like demographics, land use, transportation access, and employment opportunities. They say just because something is in a node does not mean it will be redeveloped. They say zoning regulations still come into play. They also say they stand by the master plan, but will examine amendments as they're provided. Live in Baltimore County, Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
Jessica, thank you. The city is putting tens of millions of dollars toward expanding its group violence reduction strategy, otherwise known as GVRS, while the mayor and Monzi say it is a plan that's proven to improve community safety. Fox 45's Tom Rogers spoke with a public safety expert who says that the city should pump the brakes.
Baltimore City leaders are moving forward and expanding the gun violence reduction strategy program to another district in Baltimore City. The Western District was the city's pilot location for that program in 2022 before including the Southern districts this last year. To now, the Central and Eastern districts who are falling under the same program. The Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or Monzi, is using $50 million in ARPA funding to add to the already $20 million annual funding for this pilot program. While leaders point to data showing the program works in the Western District, others argue it's way too soon to expand, especially if there were still 41 homicides in that district just last year. National Police Association retired Sergeant Betsy Smith says the first people who should have a voice are the police officers who work the Western District and the victims.
One of the things about this strategy is it aims to keep people out of prison. So I would also talk to the crime victims and see if they think this strategy is working. We've got to put victims first, cops right up there, and the criminals last. And unfortunately, sometimes people need to go to prison. That's how you reduce violent crime.
One other aspect in here, I know that we heard from the University of Pennsylvania representing that, the study that was 18 months. In the middle of that study, though, there was a change in messaging. We lost a city state's attorney that went to a different one, who is now Ivan Bates, speaking against violence and speaking out, saying, hey, the other one was saying we're not going to worry about low-level crimes, what she deemed that way. Now we've got one saying, no, we're going after everyone, especially low-level crimes, because that way it works way up to the top. Do you think that had a factor in these numbers?
Well, yes, and so did redistricting. But you know, and when we talk about those types of crime strategies, you know, that low-level crime, that's called broken windows policing. We were extremely successful with that in the 90s. Started in New York, swept across the country, including Baltimore. So we know what works. We need to, instead, you know, so perhaps instead of spending millions of dollars with this program.
Well, again, Sergeant Smith says it's crucial for leadership to speak with officers who are working the streets of the Western District to see how the program impacts them and if they really are seeing lower crime rates or just displacing the violence to other areas of the city. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
And here's a live look at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas right now, where the Kansas City and San Francisco are set to square off in the Super Bowl just 2 days from now. Now, with the game getting closer, bets, as you can imagine, are rolling in. In fact, the American Gaming Association predicts 42.7 million adults will place bets on the game, a 40% increase from last year. Now, with the ease of online sports betting here in Maryland, there are some concerns over the rise in gambling addiction. Fox 45's Megan Gillen takes a closer look.
As the NFL takes over Las Vegas this weekend for the big game, many Americans are upping the ante as consumers are expected to bet a whopping $23.1 billion. This comes as a Siena College poll finds that 38% of gamblers have felt they bet more than they should have, and 15% of all Americans report knowing someone who has or had an online sports betting problem. Mary Drexler, program director for the Maryland Center for Excellence on Problem Gambling, explains how to know if you're one of them.
Become preoccupied with the gambling activity, and that's all that you keep thinking about. You start lying about your gambling activity or how much you're gambling. Your relationships, and that could be family relationships, even conflict with your job, start to begin to, impact your daily living. I think some others are you try to cut back or stop, and you can't.
If you find that you're fitting into that category, how do you remove yourself from that situation and pull back?
Well, number one, remember to gamble for entertainment, not for a way to win money or to gain more money. I think you need to set a budget and stick